that sustainable development is going to be something that is going to strike a balance between the nature and environment. You have to take these three factors into the normal walk of life and create an environment which will make the system even more stronger. Should be given a chance to promote, to understand, to realize his dream through education. So providing quality education is a topmost priority for each one of us. Good morning and welcome to the first session in Chapter 7, Unit 2, second semester BCom, Sustainable Development, where we are going to speak about the sustainable development, definitions, objectives, and principles. Now, in this world, when we are talking about this ideology of sustainable development, this is something which is very, very important for us to understand, to acknowledge at the given point of time. Why? Because we are not just in the generation of new development, but we are in the generation of sustaining what we need to maintain with. So that's where when we are talking about this word called as sustainable development, we need to understand with the advancement of technology, the world has also witnessed constant exploitation of nature, which has led to alarming problems like global warming, ozone depletion, climate change factors, pollution, deforestation, and so many other problems. So one side, when man is trying to seek his salvation in terms of developing the world, using the prowess of technology, using the power in terms of his innovation, but the other side, he needs to understand the very mother nature is getting disturbed. The mother earth is getting completely exploited. It's going on to a situation where probably the next generation might not be able to witness this beautiful planet. So the question of sustainability has started coming into the minds of people, where people have now started thinking, how far can we go further in order to sustain this great planet? Followed by, it's also important for us to take an immediate action for preserving a planet, and sustainable development is the answer for better environment. So sustainable development is not just going to be a one-word answer here, but that is going to be the solution for the future. So it is the duty of each and every citizen in this world to think about it, to take an action, to take a bold step in terms of making this earth even more sustainable. Moving further, now how do we define the word sustainable development? It is defined by the United Nations as the concept where it says that development that meets the need of present without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. The biggest question today that is still raging in the minds of people is that how is that we are going to create a sustainable environment for the future generations to come? We have been living in a world where we have exploited each and every resource for our sustainability, for our survival. We believe that in order to make the world a better living place, we destroyed the forest. We started exploiting water, soil, and probably every single natural resource that was available. In this long run, what has happened is that we have destroyed the earth, made it a place like hell for the future generations. So somewhere down the level line, we start thinking this process whether the future generation would be able to see, would be able to sustain, would be able to meet their needs, and will they continue to live on this planet Earth? Now that's where United Nations says very clearly in the definition part that without compromising, if you start making yourself reach a compromised level at any given point of time, that means we are not going to make the future generation appreciate, understand the value of this great place. So it's very important for all of us that we are taking forward, making this earth even more a sustainable place to go on with. Followed by the sustainable development is the formulated attitude that moves towards economic extension while ensuring quality of environment for the coming generation. So sustainable development incorporates conservation, preservation, nurturing of the earth and environment while stepping towards economic growth. So sustainable development will guarantee to create a balance between the development and ecology. So what I mean by saying here is that let's talk about the sustainable development in a very, very intrinsic manner altogether. We are trying to understand that sustainable development is going to be something that is going to strike a balance between the nature and environment. Sustainable development is going to make us understand the very important factor, the very essence of life, that how are we going to produce a system, how are we going to bring in a system that is going to incorporate, that's going to bring in a formula by which we embrace the environment, by which we are able to live within the means that have been provided. Now, what is happening within us is that we are trying to extend the environment. We are trying to go against the environment. We are trying to find out methods that can actually destroy the environment, make the ecosystem adjustable to the needs of human beings. But that is not what is expected out of us. What is expected is that you live with the environment. You live with the nature. You don't try to go against the nature. You don't try to go against the system, destroy it, and create a new world out of it. What is expected from you is that you try to understand the importance of sustainability. Moving further, the seeds of this idea of sustainable development was planted long time back in the year 1972 in the Stockholm Declaration. Now going further, the concept came into being in United Nations Conference on Environment and Development held in Rio de Janeiro in the year 1992. But until this was re-announced in that summit, the first countries and the major world leaders came forward to acknowledge the extreme need of taking forward sustainable development. Though this word has been spoken in several journals, in several TV channels, or probably in some of the world summits and conferences, but the need for understanding the importance of this word has now started rising in the minds of global leaders. Be it France, UK, US, Japan, India, China, or any other countries, they've all started understanding that the sustainable development is going to be the path to future. So every leader is now spending time, money, and energy in order to make their country a sustainable country. There was a time when people were talking about, are you a developed nation or a developing nation? Now the question is changed. Now the question is, are you a sustainable nation or not? Are you a nation who can sustain and survive, or are you a nation who's just going to become scrap in the future? So now the question is very, very strong. It needs to be thought. This is the food for thought for today. So that's why most of the leaders are trying to build the entire system. They want to see that this environment is going to be sustained for the future. Moving further, the entirety of the sustainable development is an international and collaborative approach that focuses on environment, development, and the sustainable aspects of the society that impacts upon this entire factor. Now, this is very, very important, which I would like to talk upon. It emphasizes on the factor very clearly, the relationship between the environmental development and searches for attaining developmental achievements along maintaining a healthy environment for the human being. So this is going to be very, very important for us. Why? Because somewhere down the lane, you need to start understanding the social, bearable, equitable, sustainable environment and economic factors. The three major factors that we talk about in life is social, environment, and economic. No doubt about it. These are the three factors. But then when you go into the subsets of it, the sustainability, equitability, and the bearable factors. So you have to take these three factors into the normal walk of life and create an environment which will make the system even more stronger. Now, if you're not able to create that system, if you're not able to see that you can get things into picture, you can get things into the action mode altogether, then we are not going to take this system forward. Then that would be a crash of the environment altogether. Followed by, what is the scope of sustainable development? This is a very, very interesting word or an interesting topic all about. Why? Because the term sustainability is widely used to indicate programs, initiatives, actions that are aimed to the preservation of resources. And when we are talking about it, albeit in terms of human, social, and economic development, are also known as the pillars of sustainable development. So we are going to include the human factors, the social factors, economic and the development factors, which forms the major scope of the sustainable development exercise. So if this is going to be the sustainable development, one side we have the human factors, the other side we have the social factors, we do have the economic factors and the development factors here. So the four pillars of this entire concept relies on this. So if you're not able to get all the four at the same place, a synchronization has to happen. If that does not happen, if that has not been relieved or retrieved or taken forward, then we will not be able to see the development happening. So at the end of the day, I would always like to say that, the initiative that we are going to take, we need to keep these four factors in mind and then start up with the program. Now, taking forward again, coming to the scope factor, the technology, economical, ethical, philosophical factors, all these things, when we talk about it, though they are, interactive, but most of the time they might form an opposite in terms of understanding sustainable development. Just to give you an example, let's make things simple. One side, when we are talking about technology, the other side, we are talking about the sustainability. Now, technology is something that is aiming to make our lives easier. But the other side, the nature says that the too much of dependency on technology can cause further harm to the nature. Like, for example, the use of mobile phones, the use of microwave ovens, the use of refrigerators, televisions, antennas, radars, and so many other factors, which is actually trying to destroy so many, social beings that are part, biological reserves in the society. So one side, when we are talking about the extension of technology, which is inbuilt in order to make the system even more attractive, even more powerful altogether. But the other side, we are talking about a system which is actually going on a destructive mode altogether. So that's where I would say that, the global sustainability taken as a common goal, the obstacles and the aims are taken over as the group. So one side, what we are seeing is that we want to develop, we want to verify, we want to implement and monitor the entire policy for sustainable development. Yes, we are interested on that. And we want to see that the water, the resources, biological resources, land, soil needs to be conserved. Then only we can take forward together the entire concept, the entire scope of sustainable development. Followed by the importance, the sustainable development important is because it combats, let's understand that word, with environmental crisis while facing the challenge of economic growth. So there is a combination factor. Now, sustainable development keeps in check the need to leave enough resources for the upcoming generation. That signifies the good cooperating citizens. So sustainable development is going to make us understand what are the resources that are important for the future generations' use. It is not that we have used that resource. We need to preserve that resources for the upcoming generation so that even they get the benefit of Mother Nature. Followed by, this activity also demonstrates that organizations in healthcare systems, big and small industries, all kind of businesses and their occupation can coordinate with power and resources that will make a profitable economic social value. So this is not something only restricted to the environmentalists, people who just care about the environment or who people talk about the green environment situation altogether. This is a concept that belongs to each and every one of us. It might be a small scale industry, or it might be a large scale MNC, it might be a healthcare system, it might be a chemical company, an IT company. Whoever is involved in this has to become a part of the system and society so that we are able to carry forward the concept of sustainable development. Now, the goals and principles are quite simple. The Brundtland Commission report had received support all over the world, and the Rio de Janeiro in 1992 and Agenda 21. These are the goals. So the first goals that we were trying to talk about is eradication of extreme poverty. Now, that's very, very important. By the year 2030, let's try to make a resolution, a resolvement problem saying that the word poverty shall be removed once for all. So I want that word poverty to be removed at any given point of time. Followed by ending of hunger and achieving food security. That has to also come into picture. So we are talking about the social values of human being. The biggest social aspect of security or the guarantee of life, which I would like to talk about, is that you are able to get food 3 times a day. You are able to live a life free of any kind of tension. You are able to get your basic needs satisfied, like food, shelter, and clothing. So we are trying to achieve that factor. We are trying to achieve that point, saying that at the end of the year 2030, we don't want poverty. We don't want people to suffer from food shortage or from any other basic resources. Followed by catering to healthy lives and promoting well-being of the people. Yes, of course, the pandemic has definitely taught us that, there is nothing more important than your health. Rightly said, health is wealth. Now, that is going to be the agenda. That is going to be the topic of the century, where we are going to concentrate 100% in definitely making our lifestyles even more healthy and trying to make our health the primary asset of life. Followed by the quality education that's ensured for all boys and girls, which means I'm going to put the word children here. I'm going to say that by the year 2030, we want that gender equality to be the highest, and every single child in this universe should be given a chance to study, should be given a chance to promote, to understand, to realize his dream through education. So providing quality education is a topmost priority for each one of us. Followed by, to achieve that gender equality and empowering, I don't want that demarcation of men versus women. A man versus woman, that word has to end. All are equal. All of them should get a chance to be a part of the system. You may be from whichever background, you may be from whichever caste, creed, religion, color. We are not worried about it. But what we are sincerely concerned is that, do you get a chance to survive? Do you get a chance to be a part of this great universe? Do you get a chance to change the system as you desire? So let's have the gender equality coming forward, and let's see that each one of us get a chance to realize our dreams. Followed by the sustainable development in India. When we talk about our own country, of course, we are in a grave distress. You might look into it. Why? Because there's many at times there has been a destruction in the flora and fauna of the country. More than 10% have gone declined often. Half of the water bodies are polluted, and more than 1/3 of the land is degraded. The modern waste. All these factors have been coming into picture. We all know about the Save Soil campaign. We've also been hearing about so many other factors where the land has completely depleted, the landslides, flooding, unnecessary problems in terms of understanding the waste disposal and all other factors, which is literally pushing India in terms of a grave danger. Now, followed by, despite this degrading environmental condition, India has played an important role in terms of improving its condition. It is working on parameters of ideation, diplomacy, and institution. Of course, today we are talking about factors like Atmanirbhar, where we are trying to talk about the self-governance models, where we are also trying to, make India a self-reliable country altogether. Most of our organizational goals, administrative goals, and even from the governance models, we have been trying to emphasize upon the word called as sustainable development. We want India to be a self-sustained nation, capable of taking forward its goals, its ambitions, maintaining its relations with every country in this world, and trying to become a model for every nation to follow. Followed by which I would also like to say here, it has become the first country to participate in the voluntary national review surveys. Now we are trying to push ourselves to become a leader in every single sector that we are taking into picture. Now, whether it be manufacturing or services sector, India wants to set an example to this globe. India wants to become the first nation where we want to not just try, where we just do not want to be an experimental factor, but we want to be that country through which success can be spelt. So that's where we are trying to make ourselves even more achievable, even more lean and mean in terms of understanding and achieving the goals. And especially when we are talking about the self-development goals with the work with G77, and when we are trying to collaborate with so many other factors, now we have also started giving a lot of importance to agriculture, biotechnology, and renewable, non-renewable resources, which is trying to propel India into the global map of sustainable development matrix. The initiatives that are taken by the government, especially from the Water Prevention Control Pollution Act of 74, the Forest Conservation Act of 1980, the Air Pollution Control 1980, the Environment Act of 1986. So definitely we have taken some positive steps in terms of making us understand how to take it forward, what are the initiatives completely taken, and we are trying to build an environment and system that can be even more achievable, that can be even more sustainable in nature. Now, the other thing, coming to the conclusion part of it here, in the fast-pacing world, when we are moving towards reaching new heights in advancement, it is essential for the global community to take a step, to take a conscious step in terms of making this environment, making the system even more sustainable. So what are we actually trying to understand is that let us not live a difficult tomorrow. Let us try to make our today sustainable so that tomorrow becomes an easier day for the generations to live. Let us take all those hard things into our mind. Let's understand that yes, it is difficult for us to live under certain rules and regulation, under certain principles, but nevertheless, that will definitely help for a better future. If we can control our technology innovation in a sustained manner, if we can make our technology development and innovation in a fruitful way, automatically tomorrow the development will spell something good for the upcoming generation. So sustainable development is not going to be an objective anymore. Sustainable development is not going to be a formula or a thought process, but let us make it a habit so that we will make the tomorrow a sustainable tomorrow. With this, I come to the end of today's session. I hope and believe that all the factors that have been spoken through this particular presentation will be helpful for you, both in terms of theory and in practice. In the upcoming session, we are going to talk about sustainable development in terms of resources and the other important factors. But until then, stay tuned, stay blessed, and stay enlightened forever. Thank you once again for joining me today on this wonderful session.